Hello, 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 and welcome to episode 97 of Cutscene Combos. We have got an absolutely massive episode this week. Our character profile is on Daredevil. We'll be talking through the latest episode of Percy Jackson. We've also got the first 3 episodes of Echo to go through together. We'll be talking about the big winners at the Golden Globes. We'll also be covering a relatively sizable Nerd News network. And we've got our content championship, which is Winter Soldier versus the Phantom Menace. But before that, good stuff. Horizontal, how has your week been?
I have had a fairly productive week for once. And I think it's partly in like start of the year, getting habits going that we'll see how long
Start
they
as you mean to go
last.
on.
Yeah. But I mean, I took my parents have been away for a week. I had to take them to the airport on Monday. So I think that's also helped. Just having
More
like,
control over your own
yeah,
time.
no distractions sort of thing. But yeah, been productive week. Got started on my own content again, lightly. Just like not putting any pressure on myself to do them.
Just
Like,
tap it in.
yeah, just like I'm more focused on just like, right, think about the next one. Don't think about like the fact of, oh, I want to do a video a week or video every like not doing any of that because it never goes well. My focus is just like, okay, this is the next thing I want to do. Do it, post it straight away, do it all in one go. Don't try and not like spread it out because then obviously if I don't do it while I'm in the flow of it, then the same shit will happen that's happened in the past where I just stop doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, pretty good week. Gaming, chilling, all that good stuff. How's your week been?
My week's also been good actually. I'm in the exact same bit of the year as you. I'm trying to set them good habits. And it's actually so funny. So one of the things I was trying to organise today was making sure I have all my character profiles up
Hmm.
to date. And I know what I've done and what I need to do and stuff like that. Because coming up on 100 episodes with basically a character profile every week, it's very easy to forget what characters you
Yep.
have and haven't done. So I was putting that list together, and as a result, I was going back to some of the older episodes that I don't have clean notes on. I'm not
Mm.
100% sure on. And we start episode 2 by you going, "Is this a habit now?" Which is really funny because episode 2 would have been about this time 2 years ago.
Yeah, it would.
Which is really funny to me. But yeah, no, I'm in the
God.
exact same boat. I'm trying to set good habits. I've created, unironically, I think 3 spreadsheets since the start of the year, just so I can track different things. So one that I've shared with you and Josh, so that we can
Mm.
organize gaming videos. But then I've also created another one for me, where I put in videos that are like 100% are happening,
Mm.
and then I've got like tabs so that I can just checkbox it to say yes, I've done that. So,
Mm.
like, if I need to write a script for it, have I recorded it? Have I edited it? Have I done the thumbnail? Is it uploaded? Has it gone live yet? Have I, because I'm trying to do more TikToks this year, and TikTok is so different to YouTube Shorts. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'm actively like planning to record TikToks for the long form videos I'm doing. So I like, have you done your TikTok for it? Just so that I can look at that and go, right, I need to do that.
Yeah.
Um, absolute chaos. As well as obviously getting ready for hopefully moving in like a month and a half's time.
Oh yeah, that's gonna come
Is
around fast.
Yeah, it's chaos, absolute chaos. So staying tuned for that mess of a couple of
Mm.
weeks. But other than that, it's been good. It's been a busy week at work, but also very productive. It's been one of them busy weeks where it's not been chaos busy. It's just been like, right, this is what we're doing. It all goes relatively smoothly. So waiting
Mm.
for the other shoe to drop there. Um, but shall we get into it with our character profile this week?
Yes, we shall.
So, I was once again at a loss for character profiles, but then something happened, which we are discussing later,
Mm.
which made this the perfect time for this.
Yeah, I'm surprised
Our
we
character
haven't
profile,
covered this
I
already.
couldn't believe it. This is part of the reason I went back to check all the character profiles. Because I was like, there's no way I haven't done Daredevil.
Mm.
But I hadn't done Daredevil. You'd be surprised at some of the big characters I have not done a character profile on.
Yeah, it's wild.
And we're going to start remedying that. So,
No.
Daredevil. Matthew Michael Murdoch, aka Daredevil, first appeared in February 1964. The Catholic son of a boxer, Matt is a lawyer by day and the devil of Hell's Kitchen by night. Matt's father, Battling Jack Murdoch, wanted his sons to achieve more with their lives than he ever could. As a result, he insisted that rather than playing outside with friends constantly, that Matt studies hard to achieve the greatness inside him. However, he also instilled a belief of helping thy neighbour in his son, as one day when he saw a blind man about to be hit by a truck, he pushed him out of the way. This caused him to be in the firing line when the truck crashed and caused a radioactive isotope it was carrying to be splashed across Matt's face. This accident left Matt blinded, but he found during recovery that the rest of his senses had been heightened to a superhuman degree. These new heightened senses allowed him to have a radar sense of sorts, allowing him to almost interact with his environment as if he wasn't blind. Struggling with a now blind son and needing money more than ever, Jack fell in with the wrong crowd and joined with crooked fight promoter Fixer. Fixer then tried to get Jack to take a dive. Jack reluctantly agreed, but during the fight had a change of heart and won. After the fight, Jack was shot dead by Fixer's men. Under the tutelage of his new ninja master, Stick, Matt would hone his skills and start hunting down his father's killers. The hunting ended when a woman accidentally fell out of a window and seemingly died. Matt ran in horror of his actions and stopped interacting with Stick. Matt focused on his studies, as his father had always hoped he would, and was able to go to Columbia Law School, where he met and fell in love with Electra Nachinos. They were exceedingly happy together and deeply in love. However, when Electra's father was accidentally murdered by the police, she ran away to be alone, leaving Matt heartbroken. After graduating, Matt went on to work in New York City at a major law firm, and also began helping out as a volunteer at his father's old boxing gym. There he met Mickey, who he helped train and improve as a fighter. But when Kingpin's goons kidnapped Mickey, Matt used his old training to find and save her. However, this caused him to miss some important work and get fired. This resulted in Matt starting up his own law firm with friend Franklin Foggy Nelson, birthing Nelson and Murdoch Law Firm. He also realised, while he was doing good as a lawyer, he could do more good with his other abilities, so took some of his father's old robes to make a costume and began fighting crime as the Daredevil. I think,
Very cool.
especially in the modern time,
Mm.
Daredevil is one of the most iconic characters Marvel have in a post like MCU world.
Yeah.
Because obviously before films really took off, Marvel's big three was Hulk, Wolverine, Spider-Man.
Yep.
And now you've got an entire generation who grew up with the MCU who think of Thor, Captain America, and Iron Man as the big three.
Yep.
But you've also got a middle generation that was kind of growing up and aware of the traditional big three, but is also aware of the new big three. And I think them kind of people would look at like Spider-Man, Daredevil, and then another character they love and be like, no, that's my big three. Especially with the Netflix show, which I just
Yeah.
propelled Daredevil to such a massive, massive height and did a very good story of capturing what the character is actually mainly like. But yeah, Daredevil's an awesome character.
Yeah, it's so cool.
And if I wasn't already spending so much money monthly on comics, is the kind of character I'd get into. At some point, I need to go back and get some of the old Daredevil runs in big ones and just buy them instead of subscribing to a new ongoing run.
Yeah, I think you subscribing to another run of comics might not be
So
good.
bad. Yeah. I need to. I'm hoping in the next couple of days that my new The Ultimate Spider-Man #1 is going to arrive, and I'll get, because Twitter seems to be in love with the start of this new run, so I'm hoping I'll get to see some of that. I'll get to see that very, very soon, hopefully.
Exciting.
Yeah. Percy Jackson time.
Yes. Another
Not only do
great
me and you
episode.
love this show, Horizontal, our viewers appear to love this show because everything we've done relating to Percy Jackson has done
Mm,
very well. So clearly, the people want more of it.
yes, and I mean, I think that's showing how strong the Percy Jackson fandom is.
Yeah, I knew it was
S-
there, but they were very dormant.
Yeah, they've just been sat waiting for like the time.
Absolutely, that they've 100% been sat there going, one day they will know our power.
Yeah, one day they'll make
Um,
a proper show for us.
my first major takeaway from this episode:
Hmm.
Edge is a really good actor.
Yeah.
You look a little bit lost. Were you not a wrestling fan growing up?
No, I was
Okay, so
not.
the
But I'm
person who
get.
played Ares
Yeah, I guessed who you
is
meant.
WWE's Edge.
Yeah, no, I wasn't a wrestling fan.
Yeah, so my brother's a massive wrestling fan, so as a result, I grew up.
Okay, that's why I
Um,
kind of recognized his face a little
yeah,
bit. I've probably seen
I
him
I
around.
I knew that he was playing Ares in the show, and I was like, it's a decent casting. I get why they've done it.
Yep.
He really showed us some decent acting chops. I'll give it to him.
Yeah.
I was really impressed. I think he added a lot to the episode.
Hmm.
The kind of the characterization of him. I don't know what he was like in the books because he was omitted from the film. It was I really liked. I thought it was really cool. The way him and Grover kind of. And I said last
Yeah.
week, Grover's due like a big thing. The little back and forth between him and Grover was really cool. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah,
This
and
kind of
also like
war of the words almost.
yeah, and Grover showing he's smart, like his cleverness in. I
Yeah,
do think he may slightly have been a fan of Ares, but also using that clearly to try and like get some information out of him a little bit,
yeah, yeah.
um, which was very
Um,
cool to see.
yeah. So obviously, my entire knowledge of this of the Percy Jackson universe comes from the films that I now know were very
Mm.
poorly received and everything back when I was growing up.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see obviously the differences.
Hmm.
Ares was completely non-existent from that film.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't remember
and
anything about
the story with Gabe reporting him to the police happened at a slightly different time.
it. Ah,
So it was after they cut off Medusa's head
right.
that they started being chased by the police.
Yeah.
And then a maid came to knock on their door at a motel and she saw their head in the bathroom and then it all kicked off.
Right. Okay.
So that was really interesting. To see the differences in that and how Ares kind of used that opportunity to try and get something out
Out
of
of
the
them. Yeah.
situation and once again show how the gods are always kind of just using people.
Yeah. Always playing for themselves.
Exactly. And like he says it in uncertain terms, like this family is full of backstabbing, conniving, horrible people who will do anything to get a leg up.
Yeah, and he even like more so kind of lays out a harsher truth about the gods and being like, you aren't gonna stop a war. Like a war's happening. Like you think you're gonna stop it? Nah, the war will happen. The gods do what they want. They lie and deceive people and never tell you the full story.
Yeah. It's time for a war. It's just that time
Yeah.
of the loop that we keep doing for all eternity. Um I was really impressed with some of the acting from these young actors in this episode
Mm,
with regards to the dawning realization of Percy of how serious everything actually is,
yeah.
but also Annabeth and Grover becoming more emotionally invested in Percy and
Yep.
like we need to lock in. Seeing the fates was really cool.
Yes. Seeing the fates and that like I picked up on it. And do you know why I picked up on it? Because of Ahsoka. And we talked about them in Ahsoka not that long ago. So like that like imagery of the whole thread thing, I was like, hang on, that feels like the
Yeah.
like the string. And then when she says, "Oh, I saw the fates," I'm like, okay, it was.
I saw the one with scissors first. Obviously, they're all sat there together. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
that's interesting. And then I saw the other two. I was like, oh, wait, they're the fates.
yeah.
It was really cool.
It was a
But
clever
this
way of
also
doing
shows
it.
a lot of character development because back
Mm.
in episode 3, episode 2, Annabeth wouldn't have said what she'd seen. She
No,
wouldn't
she
have
probably
shared that
wouldn't. No.
information. Um, and it also showed a bit of a humanization of the gods when Percy was trapped in the chair, and Annabeth kind of
Yes.
was like, "We don't want to be like you. We want to be better than you. We don't want to do this backstabbing. We want to work together and be collaborative and be better
Hmm.
versions of ourselves." And he was kind of like, maybe we want that as well." And then he released them.
Yeah, it's kind of like she hit on that emotion where he like of who he used to be
Yeah,
and how he wanted to be loved by some of the other gods, and it's like he obviously realized in that moment, I am become no better than the rest of them.
yeah. It's almost this thing like you got to remember the gods are supposed to be thousands, if not millions, of years old.
Mm,
And it can be so easy, even if you try not to get stuck in a loop after that amount of time. It goes back to what Ares was saying. It was like we do a war, then we all get over it, and then a couple thousand years later we'll do it again, and we'll do it again,
yeah,
and it just keeps on going in this loop. And as with all cycles of violence and abuse and anything that is bad, that can get caught in a cycle, it needs someone to break it and go no. And it's kind of
mm,
like a microcosm of what the three of them are trying to achieve anyway. The loop
yeah,
of someone getting punished at all times was broken by Annabeth saying, "No, this isn't right. We need to be better."
hmm,
And that is exactly what the three of them are trying to achieve by going to get the Master Bolt and taking it to the gods. They want to go get it, give it back, and be like, "You've got to be better than this. Why?
just stop
Why are
trying
you
to
trying to
fight.
backstab? Why are you trying to have a war? Just
Yeah,
fucking talk. All these thousands of years, and you've not tried therapy once. Get a life."
yeah, it was an interesting to see. um I really enjoyed that whole like into the fairground. I thought it was a very cool way of that god having the fairground and what he was using, then obviously tracking if a demigod or something went in. It's all very smart, very cool.
Yes,
We
very much
also
so.
got a tease of what we talked about a couple of weeks ago of being excited to see
Yes,
of the
the Lotus
Lotus
Casino.
Hotel, yeah, the Lotus Hotel Casino, whatever, and that's where they're going.
Yeah.
So I think next week's going to be a very trippy episode.
I hope so. I hope so. I feel like I haven't seen too much of the discourse because I'm not plugged into that side of Twitter too much. But
Hmm.
I'm really curious to know what the fans of the books felt like about the representation of the Lotus Casino in the first film, because I think that bit still holds up really well.
Yeah, that's like
But I'll
considering
be
that's like
curious to
one
see
of the
how it
few
goes.
things I remember.
Yeah, it was a really cool characterization of it, and I'll be curious to see what the show does, and how well that progresses the story. But we
Yeah.
are getting closer towards the end of this journey.
Mm.
Um, and I'm really, really curious to see if at any point you mention anything that I know for a fact happens that I don't know if you see coming at all, which is interesting.
Well, right
Um,
now I don't know what the fuck you're on about, so I'm gonna go with no, I don't see it coming.
yeah, I think they've done a very good job. Bearing in mind, like, most of the people who are watching this are going to be fans of the book,
Mm. And know what's
or a
coming.
lot of them, especially who were watching like from day one, are going to be people who know the story already. It's it's interesting how it's being handled, and I'm curious to see how it continues to be handled going forward.
Okay.
Um, and then we had something else on Disney Plus,
Yes, we did.
the beginning of the Marvel Spotlight
Yes,
branding.
the first of potentially many.
Yes. So Marvel Spotlight, as we were told, is supposed to be a more grounded storytelling
Mm-hmm.
playground with more isolated stories that you don't need to be aware of
Mm.
to um, enjoy them. You can
Yeah,
just
you
watch
don't
them
need
by
to
themselves.
watch anything previous.
Yes. And we were concerned
Mm.
about the prerequisite knowledge needed for Echo,
Yes.
because Echo made her debut in
Okay.
Hawkeye,
Mm-hmm.
alongside Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin,
Yep.
who made his um, debut in Netflix's Daredevil.
Yes.
So we were like, okay, this is great idea, and I am all behind what Marvel Spotlight is supposed to be about.
Hmm.
But I was curious about, is this the right show to start it with?
Yeah, we were concerned that the one they've chose to start with is one that already is linked into the MCU and other things, and
Yes.
it was like, this feels weird.
So that is going to be probably off the top of my head right now the only criticism I have. They did a
I
good job giving us the information we needed. The editing of it was weird as fuck.
so I'm I've seen a couple of things online about the first episode being like was kind of just a mashup of old footage,
Yeah.
which I get. And it was like, I do agree with you. It felt weird. Like, I don't know what it was about it edited together, but obviously it jumped around a lot. And I think the issue that they put themselves in with picking Echo to be a spotlight show is they said, you need no previous knowledge. So unfortunately, they kind of had to use episode one to tell us
Get
all
you
the
up to
stuff we
speed.
already knew.
Yeah.
They added in some new stuff, don't get me wrong, but a lot of it was like other footage and taken from Hawkeye or different things and kind of just retold everything we already knew with a little bit of extra detail in places. But I agree, it felt a bit of a weird, like montage almost, like mashup.
Yes. The second half of episode one, once we got past the catch up bit that they didn't want to call a recap because then it destroys the illusion of you don't need to know anything
Yeah.
else. Um, After that, I fucking loved episode one. But we were laying in bed last night watching it, and Jenna goes, "I really like that episode." I was like, "I did." That first half of it was fucking weird. It just felt weird. I didn't mind the reused footage.
No.
I feel like the stuff they shot as additive stuff was
Mm.
really well done.
Yeah.
Um, I loved the fight scene from her point of view with Daredevil being the opposition. That felt
Yes.
really cool and so different because I don't think you're normally aware of how much the camera follows the protagonist in a fight
Yeah.
scene because that's the protagonist. So you don't think
Hmm.
until you see someone you're used to being the protagonist as the other side of it, and then all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, this feels different," and I like it.
Yeah.
Um, Anyone dissing that fight scene and saying Netflix did it better, it's the exact same. It's the exact same stuff. If you're
Yeah.
going to sit here and say that you loved Netflix's Daredevil, but you've not enjoyed the fight scenes in Echo, they are so similar in so many ways. I don't know what you could possibly say. I think it's a
The
bias thing. You remember Daredevil being so good that you've
yeah. I
because like
think
there are a number of shots in Daredevil where you can clearly see punches not actually landing, but it's shot in such a way that it doesn't matter.
I'd say the only kind of thing that wasn't quite there. There's a couple of fight scenes that feels like they wanted them to feel like a wanna, like Daredevil did
Yeah,
a couple of times, but there was quite obvious cut moments that weren't very well hidden, like I think they were supposed to be. And maybe
yeah,
that's what people are picking up on as being like, oh, it's not as good because it's not as cleanly put together, maybe in
yeah.
places. But I agree. I do think the fights are just as good as Daredevil was. And especially that one in episode one, I thought was very good. Um, yeah,
Um,
I think unfortunately with that first half of episode one, they just kind of backed themselves into a corner, which they struggled to solve, and the only way they could solve was with that weird like mashup.
yeah,
Um, I think not had there been no previous knowledge of Echo, they probably would have done that stuff over more episodes,
yeah.
and the show maybe would have been a bit longer. But they kind of were like, well, people sort of know who she is. We'll do this weird recap for the people that don't know, and then we can get into things. And it kind of was just like a weird hole they kind of put themselves in.
I also think that first episode being the way it was is why
Hmm.
they dropped all 5 episodes at once,
Yeah.
so that people would be more likely to binge it
Yeah, just go, oh,
and
well,
then
keep
they and
watching, see
then
how
it
it
doesn't
goes.
yeah, it doesn't feel like as big a deal. Whereas if they just drop that episode 1 and then they have to
Oh,
wait a week for the next episode, it would have been unbearable.
I
That
think,
you would have just had all of Twitter just going, "We've seen the first half of this episode in Hawkeye. Why are they just showing us Hawkeye?"
yeah, I think they maybe could have got away with just releasing the first two, but even then, I think it would have. Yeah, you're right. It's helped them that they've dropped all five in one go.
My only other criticism, and I
Mm,
do think this was done for an artistic reason, and maybe I just don't agree with it.
okay.
The audio seems to not know what it wants to do, in the sense they clearly want to use Maya's deafness as a kind of linking point. There are
Yeah.
times where you lose all the audio,
Yeah.
but and there's also times where, for some reason, even though we can hear the background clearly,
Mm.
when someone is talking just to Maya and they're signing and they're talking, they seem to be like whispering or talking quite quietly instead of talking as they normally would while signing. And that just seems a bit strange to me at times. Like, there was one
Yeah.
conversation with Biscuit where it's like they don't need to be quiet because they're worried about being heard, and he's just like whisper talking while doing it. It's like there's no. It feels like they don't want there to be too much noise because she's a deaf character, but there's a lot of time where they just kind of are in between and they decide, oh, we're not going to go no noise, but we also don't want there to be loads of noise, so we're just left in this weird kind of middle ground where you feel like you should be straining to hear something, but you can't.
I see. I wonder. Maybe I didn't really pick up on that as bothering me, but maybe I feel like I took that as I haven't experienced kind of like real life of someone signing that often to someone that's deaf. I don't know if it's sort of a thing that is actually a common thing of when people sign, they just unknowingly are like whispering what they're saying, if you get what I
Um,
mean.
so my sister speaks sign language, as part of her job or as part
Mm,
of her previous job. And they were kind of taught, because a lot of people who are deaf lip read a little bit as well,
yeah.
to talk normally.
Okay. So yeah.
Because
Okay. So it's not
if you're
a
subconsciously whispering,
yeah.
your mouth is going to look slightly different.
Yeah, yeah,
So it
yeah.
might make it more difficult for them to interpret what you're trying to say.
So yeah. So it probably wouldn't. That's weird. Then I wonder if
The what
it's
one actor I've not noticed the problem with is the actor who plays Henry. He talks completely normally while signing. It's just a couple of scenes it's felt a bit weird. And I'm not sure if it was an artistic choice, an actor has just
not.
assumed they need to whisper, or
Yeah.
what.
Maybe.
It's felt a little bit weird at times.
Mm,
And I think that's because of the choices in certain scenes to have a complete lack of noise, and
yeah.
then
Possibly.
this weird middle ground, and then normal. The weird middle ground has felt kind of unnecessary.
Yeah. I
Um,
get you. I
but
have to say.
overall, I've been really negative for the first 5-10 minutes here. Overall, I have really enjoyed the show so far.
Oh yeah, like the story that they're telling, I'm really enjoying, and I'm actually really enjoying this sort of mixing of mysticism with the like original Native American like that
Yeah,
history of things. Uh, but yeah, the overall story in this whole like her going back to her hometown, thinking Kingpin's dead, um, obviously us knowing he isn't.
yeah.
Um, yeah, no, I've been enjoying the story. I my only concern with this series, and we haven't, I don't think you've watched ahead either, but
No, I haven't. I'm only up to episode 3.
yeah, considering we're up to episode 3 and
Mhm.
how the story sits, I feel like 5 episodes is really short.
I am going to assume that this is leading directly into Daredevil Reborn.
I don't know if it is because it's meant to be a standalone thing, right? With Marvel Spotlight. So in
I think
theory,
Spotlight is standalone. I don't think
yeah, I
I
don't know
don't
if
think
mm,
everything within it is supposed to be standalone.
I
I
get
don't
you.
know. I'm pretty
I
sure Marvel Spotlight is just supposed to be Marvel Street level,
I get you. Yeah,
and Kingpin's going to end up being the big bad of Marvel Spotlight.
I'm intrigued. I feel I have a feeling we're gonna get to the end of the 5th episode. I'm gonna be like, I feel like should be more here, but
I, I
that's
guess I guess
depends how it
the
concludes.
it doesn't massively depend how it concludes, but bearing in mind we know she can't beat Kingpin because if they kill off
Yeah.
Kingpin, they will receive backlash unknown to anyone because Kingpin is literally New York's big bad. He's perfect to every New York-based street-level villain. You can literally have them all fighting him in different ways at the same time, and it's not a problem.
Hmm.
Um, so maybe it's just a case of her story because right now her story isn't anything other than revenge and finding out who she is, and it's a little bit like a Hallmark Christmas movie. You've got the city girl going to this little like town in the middle of nowhere to find herself,
Mm.
and it's that kind of core concept, but with the gang violence following her there, and her problem in the big city isn't, oh, I'm a lawyer and it's stressful. It's, oh, I work for the most dangerous man in New York. I tried to kill him. He's not really dead now. The problem's following me. Um, so I don't think we get a conclusion in the sense of necessarily a big fight scene, but rather her deciding what's next on her journey. And if we think back to our character profile
Mm.
last week, 2 weeks ago, there was a bit after she discovered that her dad had killed Kingpin, which isn't
Uh,
exactly what happens here, but he caused
Kingpin
it.
had killed her dad. Mm.
Yeah. That she went back to her family's
Mm.
area and she did her vision quest, which I think is
Yeah.
kind of where we're
What
getting the
this is.
flashbacks to her ancestors, and it's
Yeah.
kind of just her coming to terms with who she is and actually working out what she wants. Because right now, I feel like she's just kind of doing what she thinks she should be doing. I killed the boss, or so she thought. So now I need to make my move and become the boss.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think maybe the conclusion will be in some way, sort of a way like Kingpin essentially gives her an out. More so being like, if you don't come back and you stop messing with my business, I won't hunt you, sort of thing.
Yeah,
But if you do any of those things, know that like nothing has changed. I will then come after you, and maybe that's where it ends, and so then she can go on to become whatever is next for her.
because
Um,
we also know Kingpin's got a weird relationship with people, especially this version of
yeah,
Kingpin, where his version of love and anger and everything is so twisted
yeah,
that her shooting him in the face he probably doesn't view as a huge issue. He'll view
yeah,
that as, oh, you only
possibly,
did that because you care. I'm still your uncle. I won't be surprised if his entire plan is something like, I mean, we know Kingpin, like in the comics, has been like the mayor of New York and shit like that.
mm,
And with Daredevil reborn and stuff like that, we know Wilson Fisk was moving into potentially a position of power when that happened.
yeah,
So maybe this ends with him like, okay, you take over the criminal side so that I can try and keep my hands clean.
oh, maybe
And
that's
like her
potential.
strong backbone is something he views as like, uh, yes, you shot me in the face, but I know where I stand with you.
Yeah, true. It'll be yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it kind of wraps up in the next two episodes and where it
But
ends
yeah,
for the future.
what we've seen in the first 3 episodes, I don't feel like this series needs a full conclusion. I
No,
feel like I'm okay for this to just set up a season 2.
yeah, that's true.
As long as there is then a character development conclusion,
Yes,
which I think is going to be her rebuilding her relationship with her family potentially, or coming to
yeah,
terms with her heritage or something like that. I think that's going to be okay. Obviously, it depends how they execute it,
hmm,
but I think right now I'd be okay with that being the kind of conclusion to this. What I will say is, it doesn't feel like a Marvel Disney Plus show in the way it's shot. It feels like they've actually shot a TV show. It
yeah. It
feels
does
like they've
feel
actually
different.
gone to locations and actually filmed stuff and
Yeah,
not thrown people in front of green screens and shot it haphazardly.
I know
Going
what you
back to
mean.
this kind of thing they were talking about where they were just green lighting everything and giving people money and no oversight, you
Mm,
can tell that someone's gone, no, let's actually do a pilot here and make sure we're making a TV show.
yeah, I get you.
It feels more put together.
Mm,
One fun story that I've seen that I wanted to share. I forget her name, which is terrible. The actress who plays Maya,
Oh,
um,
so
Alaqua
bad with
Cox,
names.
Alaqua Cox,
Mm-hmm.
is obviously missing an amputee and deaf in real life.
Yeah.
One story she told was the day she turned up to set, the person who meted her, greeted her, and took her inside, signed her to say hello. And it turns out a lot of the cast and crew had taken ASL courses over Zoom together, so that they had
Oh.
like a conversational amount of
Mm.
ASL, sorry, so that they could communicate with her like a human being on set instead of her having to just rely on an interpreter at all times.
Yeah.
Um, which is nice. It's one of the things that I wish was easier to do was to learn sign language. I don't mean like a case of, oh, you can learn anything if you really want to. I mean like in schools.
Yeah, it's
Like
one
a
of
lot
those
of
where they should
schools in
teach
the
it.
UK have like a GCSE for like a language.
It should be.
I ended up dropping my GCSE for a language. If I could have taken British
I did
Sign
German.
Language, yeah, if I could have taken like British Sign Language, or I forget what the other major one used over here is, I absolutely would have.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see the effort being made so that, like, if we're being honest, Aqualana Cox is very important for diversity. You can have
Yeah.
amputees who feel like they can relate to her. You can have deaf people who can feel like you can relate to her. She's Native American, which is also a massive minority. So she's going to potentially be the idol for a lot of people here. Let's have the common courtesy to try and speak their language.
Mm.
It's like when people mock someone who like has broken English. It's like they're speaking English because that's the only language you speak. It's not the only language they speak. Have a
Yeah.
little bit of respect. It's the exact same thing. She can't communicate with you because the problems that come along with being deaf make it so difficult to speak.
Mm.
At least make an effort to speak with her. She's been trying to live in your world this entire time. Let's meet halfway. So
Yeah.
it's really nice to see them steps being made, and hopefully that can be more commonplace in
Yeah, it
general.
would be good to see.
But it's been
Sure.
very very cool to see the characters interact with sign language being there all the time in all the
Mm.
interactions. And it's felt quite natural as well. They've not felt a need to show the hands constantly, but you can always see that they're moving the hands to talk.
Yeah.
And I've thought it's been really really good. And the action has been fucking awesome, and I
The
will not
fights
hear
have been
otherwise.
good.
It's been so good. And her new leg that she got at the end of episode 3 looks dope.
Yeah, that does actually look sick. It'd be pretty cool if she gets to keep that IRL.
Imagine they just like
Yeah,
make
you
one
can.
that's functional. But yeah, it's been really, really cool so far. I'm looking forward to the next couple of episodes. It looks like she's potentially heading back to New York in episode 4.
Oh, okay.
So it'll be interesting to see how that goes over there and what we get and where this story ends up and where it leaves us with Marvel Spotlight going forward.
Yeah.
Onto the Golden Globes.
Yes.
Normally we don't cover award shows, but I've seen a lot of talk about the Golden Globes. So I was really curious to have a look at what had happened.
Yeah, I mean, we
Um,
touch on the Oscars sometimes because that is the
yeah,
big one, and the Game Awards because obviously we're really into our gaming. But yeah, we don't really touch on many other award shows often.
yeah, exactly. So I thought we'd just talk about some of the big awards. I've not gone through all the awards.
Yeah.
And just talk about who won. Is there any drama about who won?
Mm.
What I will say is apparently the host was just terrible.
Yeah, whoever the comedian guy
Yeah,
host.
so it's really funny. I'd never heard of this guy.
Nope.
I wake up in the morning, see him getting panned on Twitter for just being horrific.
Yeah.
And then I get an email from O2 later that day going, "Oh, this comedian's on tour soon." And I was just like, this is not the selling point you think it is.
all I saw was like I was seeing obviously the next morning like who'd won things and like and obviously I've spoken about the Bear a few times on the
Yeah.
podcast. So we're seeing stuff about them winning different things and that. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. Then I just see like the memes of the crowd looking just disappointed. And I'm like, what has happened? And it's like I click on like the blue text on TikTok and it's like so and so's joke, and it's just like, yeah, this guy's no good.
I'm not saying we're particularly funny or potentially even entertaining. I reckon we could have done a better job hosting it than he did.
True. Do you know what I think? Ever since Ricky Gervais rinsed celebrities when he hosted, was it the Oscars?
I think it was the Oscars.
I feel like comedians try and copy what he did, but
That was
aren't
also
good
the
at it.
last time Ricky Gervais was funny.
Yeah,
So, I mean, what did we give up for that?
true.
So anyway, let's get into some awards and
Yes,
talk
let's.
about them. So the best score
Mm,
for a motion picture was given to Ludwig Göransson for Oppenheimer.
not really
Um,
shocked.
which, yeah, I mean, the music for that was stunning. And also, no offense to the other films, and I do not mean to diminish his talent whatsoever. I feel like Oppenheimer, the way it was set up with such big stakes, give you
Mm.
a lot of room to have fun with a big, powerful musical
Oh
score.
yeah. Oh yeah. It was because it was such a powerful story. Essentially, that's been told. There was so many moments where he could build these huge scores up, and it was like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Actor in comedy or musical. The categories at the Golden Globes are crazy to me. So they have actor and
yeah, they don't
actress, of
mix.
course, for everything,
Mm-hmm.
but it's drama
Yeah,
and then comedy or musical and nothing else.
yeah, which is weird.
So it seems like it's actually drama and other,
Yep.
because based on what I've been told, The Bear isn't a comedy and it's
No,
definitely not a musical.
no.
So there's some interesting stuff there.
We'll get to that.
The actor and actress for comedy and musical, Paul Giamatti won Best Actor in a Comedy or Musical for The Holdovers. And Emma Stone won Best Actress in a Comedy or Musical for The Poor Things.
Yes.
I've not seen either of them.
No.
Maybe I will go and watch them now. Who knows? We have a lot of stuff we normally have to watch, so unfortunately we end up also missing a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Actor and actress in drama. Cillian Murphy was the best actor in a drama for Oppenheimer.
Not
I don't
shocked.
think that's a massive surprise, and
No.
I doubt it is going to be his only award of the award season.
Yeah, that's
He
true.
was absolutely stunning in Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
But he will always be Scarecrow to me. Lily Gladstone won Best Actress in a Drama for Killers of the Flower Moon, which I believe is Martin Scorsese's recent film.
Yeah.
With Leonardo
Yeah.
DiCaprio, as also set in what's the time called? It's like the West, isn't it? With the Native Americans and the
Yeah.
settlers mingling. And I've not seen it. I've heard interesting things about it. Maybe I'll get around to watching it at some point.
Yeah. I'm insane.
Supporting actor, and again, this is a funny one. Supporting actor and actress is just full stop.
Yeah.
There's not one for drama or comedy here. It's just that's it. So best supporting actor was Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I won't be surprised if that's not his only scalp of this award season, because once again he was really, really good in Oppenheimer. And Davine Joy Randolph won Best Supporting Actress for The Holdovers.
Yeah, the holdovers did well.
It did.
I will say with the RDJ one, I think he did in his speech on that. He mentioned it was something like his agent had told him he needed to take a pay cut down to a third. And he was
Okay.
like, this film made X amount, which essentially was still in the millions he made off Oppenheimer. But compared to Endgame, which was obviously the last thing he did for MCU, which made him millions. He was like, yeah, I took a third. I took the pay cut that my agent wanted. And he made like a bit of a joke about it.
Best drama film goes to Oppenheimer, which again I don't think is a massive surprise.
No, it wasn't.
Best musical or comedy film, Poor Things. So Poor Things and Holdovers have been battling in a lot of these musical and comedy film categories.
Mm-hmm.
Best animated feature,
Yes.
The Boy and the Heron.
Which
now, I've not seen this.
No, I haven't. I've been
Studio
meaning
Ghibli?
to. Yes, Studio Ghibli's latest, and I think his like Ghibli himself. I think it's his last. It might
Okay,
be.
see, I heard that this was going to be his last, and then he made it and was like, I got one
So
more in me.
So here's my understanding is, he's not allowed back in the office because he won't go away, sort of thing. Like
Got ya.
they want him to retire, but he's like, no, I have another idea. I want to do another.
Got
Is
ya.
my understanding. I could be wrong, but yeah, it's apparently the last. But I don't think he wants it to be the last. Apparently, it's been very well received, and is something I have been meaning to go see.
So maybe this is a hot take, maybe it isn't. I haven't seen the film. I know it is very, very popular.
Hmm.
Is this potentially a snub for Across the Spider-Verse?
Ooh, was it
It
nominated?
was it was
Okay,
nominated.
it was nominated. It's tough because Across the Spider-Verse, yes, very incredible. Studio Ghibli animated films, though, are very well
Could
done.
could this be one of them things potentially? Which I know sounds crazy because animated films in general are always kind of looked over. Where there is a like when we talk about the Oscars, you've got Oscar films and then you've got films
Yeah,
that aren't Oscar films. Like Oppenheimer is an Oscar-winning film.
yeah,
It might not have won any yet, but it's the kind of film you look at and you go, "That's going to win awards." Whereas no matter how good a superhero film is, you're like, "It's not going to win any awards, so it doesn't matter."
yeah.
Like
I
there was jokes about Angela Bassett even being nominated for an Oscar while in a Marvel film, and how insane that was that she even got nominated, let alone anything else.
it's.
Um,
I think it's I think there's a bit of that because it's Studio Ghibli. There will be a bit of a precedent of like, oh, and it being the last, supposedly. Um, Maybe that helped bolster its chances. But yeah, it's one of those areas, I think.
okay. Best director, Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer.
Not shocked at all.
Not a surprise, really, is it?
No,
And then drama TV went to Succession, which I've heard lots of good things about.
I don't know anything about
It had its last season today, as far as I understand it. Now, my understanding comes from a Family Guy skit.
it. Okay.
Um, Dad of big major conglomerate
Mm-hmm.
is getting ready to retire.
Right.
All of his children are competing to be the one who takes over the company.
Got you.
Rich people backstabbery bullshit ensues.
Yeah.
It was like 5, 6 seasons, I think, and it had its
Okay.
last season this year.
Right.
It has lots of very, very famous actors in it. Apparently, it is really, really good. It is on my list to get around to watch at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But that is my general understanding of the concept.
Yeah.
The best musical or comedy TV show, The Bear. Now, from my understanding, based on what I've seen of it,
Mm-hmm.
the TikToks I've seen of it,
Mm-hmm.
and the way you've spoken about it, the bear is Lip from Shameless if he became a chef and started shouting and swearing at people. I don't know where the funny part is.
So I would. So here's my 2 points on it. The Bear very much deserves all the recognition it's got, and by far deserves awards. Like it is a incredible show. Would I have put it under a category of musical or comedy TV? No. I'm sure there is actual musical and comedy TV that deserves that award more than The Bear. But as we're seeing, it seems like the Golden Globes just has that as the title for other. Though I see a world where The Bear is classed as a drama, but not. It's such a weird
Shall I see
genre
what
of
Google
show.
tries to tell me its genre is?
Yeah, because here's the thing. It's like,
It says The Bear is a drama. It doesn't even have a slash comedy. It just says
okay,
drama.
yeah, no, it's not like because it's about a chef. So there's a lot of cooking focus on it. I wonder
Yeah,
if that's why they're like, we don't know where to put this.
it's a
Or
thing.
they were like, well, Succession's done its last season. It's getting an award because, like, final season and all that. We also want The Bear to have an award. Who knows if that's why that happened? So I understand people being like, it's not a comedy. Why is it won no comedy thing? valid. Does the bear deserve an award though? Yes. Incredible show.
It's just one of them ones where you're like, this is what happens when you have like two categories, just drama and then musical or
Well,
comedy.
that's
Where's our action genre?
the funny thing is, it's like, obviously, like I said, I went on TikTok the next morning. I'm like saying, oh, the bear won things. Um, the I forget the actor's name, the younger coloured lad, he did their speech. And something I thought he was very good. He was like, I've got nominated out of everyone to be the one to do the speech. And he thanks all the writers and stuff. And then he actually takes the time to thank the chefs in the food world for being so open to them to because it's like we're just playing these parts and showcasing what your lives actually are and doing our best to show that in a good TV way. But it was
Yeah.
like, I thought that was very good of him. But I'm like, I presumed, okay, they won some TV show award. Then I saw like a bit further on, I'm like, they won a comedy TV? And I'm like, huh? This seems weird. But okay, sure.
So have you also been enjoying the new Calvin Klein advert, Mr. Bear Enjoyer?
I've seen the like TikToks of people's wives being like suddenly discovering who this guy is. And it's like they're discovering him because of Calvin Klein. And then I saw one, it was like some guy reacting like, just wait till they find out he's 5'6", then they won't be interested. And some girl replies, well, when you look like that, 5'6" looks like 6'5". So
It was really funny. They showed the pictures from it to one of his co-stars on like the red carpet,
oh yeah, I've seen that clip.
and she was just like, "This is a work function.
Yeah.
We do not need to see that."
The thing is, they will have all seen the advert and probably
Yeah.
teased him for it or something. And it's just like, why? Just like, leave our boy alone.
Yeah, it's so funny to me though, because to me he's lip from Shameless,
Yeah, I get that.
which is just really, really funny. Because I can see how he does in that show, but seeing him become like this weird like girls gushing over him when he was like a little rat boy.
Yeah, I get you.
Like he's always been a handsome enough dude, but he was like from like
Yeah, he's that
from
rough
a
and
rough and
ready
tumble
handsome.
family. Yeah, yeah, it's funny. Anyway, some Nerd News Network time.
Yes.
Lots of bits and pieces here, but not a lot of anything.
No, but some
You know what I mean?
exciting news.
Yes. Wonder Man, the show that
Mm.
has been
We,
greenlit and red-lit and paused and cancelled and
yeah,
renamed
we
and
don't know what's
unnamed.
happening with it.
Apparently, it's set to resume production this month. I don't even know if they have a script yet. Resume production might just mean we're going to keep writing the script and see how it goes. In all
Yeah, we
honesty.
don't actually have any idea where it's up to in its life of becoming a show. So
Yeah. The last update we got on this was that apparently it hadn't been cancelled, which seems to be true. And
yeah,
it
it's
was
been
now going to be
reshuffled.
under the spotlight.
Yeah,
So hopefully that gives it a breath of life and it works out what
yeah,
he's doing.
hopefully.
The Netflix Marvel shows
Mm,
have been 100% confirmed as canon and moved into the MCU timeline order on Disney Plus.
yes. Which
This is good.
it is. And also is more than we expected because when we saw the bits in She-Hulk and Hawkeye of these characters appearing, we were
Yeah,
kind of told, oh, it's the same characters. Some things have happened, some haven't happened to them. This is now giving me the indication that like all of that happened.
yeah. And this brings us on to my next point. Foggy and Karen better be in the new Daredevil
Yes.
series.
I
If they are actually not in it, this is a big problem. I wasn't happy about the idea of them not being in it. But if it was like a no, this is a new Daredevil, it's just similar.
mm,
I could maybe get by it if it was a good enough story. Now they have no excuse.
yeah.
Give me Foggy and give me Karen.
I am also, now that this has been confirmed as canon, I'm sticking with my prediction that Daredevil got snapped and that's how Kingpin came back and all that.
He can't have been snapped.
Why?
Were you
All
not
right.
paying attention to Echo? So in the
Yeah, but
flashback,
when
her dad died when Hawkeye was Ronin, which was during the blip, and then she
yeah.
was working for him, which is when she fought Daredevil, which was during the blip. Has to have been.
Oh, yeah, I suppose I was kind of going, I don't know what the time jumps and stuff with
Yeah,
it
no,
then.
it has to have been.
But yeah, they
It
can't
was
have jumped
too
5
close.
years. Yeah,
No.
that's true. Okay,
So yeah, no. Sorry to ruin your little theory there, but no, I think Foggy and Karen might have been blipped,
Oh,
but
maybe.
he was there the entire time. It'll be interesting to see what Wilson did to free himself. But it means
Mm.
Jessica Jones is here, Luke Cage is here,
Mm.
Iron Fist is here, Punisher is here.
I'd be actually kind of happy if they brought Iron Fist back and kind of just tried to rework him quietly.
Finn Jones is not a bad actor, I am sure.
Hmm.
He left a horrible taste in my mouth through the Iron Fist show
Hmm.
and the way he was handled. I want to see Iron Fist succeed. I do not know how well they can do that because people do not know comic book media as well as they think they do.
Hmm.
So you have a character like Iron Fist who is very meditative and zen and very Hindu, but is also a white rich guy. People are going to go, "This is terrible," but it's kind of
Yeah.
important to the character of Iron Fist.
Yeah.
Like this is actually very important to the character of Iron Fist. Um, so I'm okay for Finn Jones to return as long as
They do it better.
he definitely puts the work in to make sure he knows what he's doing. And I
Yeah.
don't think that was all on him during the Netflix stuff, but some of it has to fall on him.
Well, yeah.
Um, but if they do decide to just recast quietly, okay with it.
Yeah, they could if they need to recast.
What
Some
I
of
will
the
say is,
parts.
this all getting moved into canon, along with the launch of Marvel Spotlight.
Hmm.
Put it this way, I am going to start putting together a piece about my thoughts about some things that are going to annoy some people.
Okay. Very vague.
And it will be coming in the next couple of weeks regarding street level heroes in the MCU.
Oh.
And I mean, I don't think the podcast's big enough for it to be a big problem, but knowing our luck, this will be the bit that launches us, and then with this our
Just
first taste of
immediately
any
into hot
real news, it's
water.
gonna be hatred. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this makes me more excited for Marvel Spotlight.
Yes. And
I
also
need,
more excited for the Daredevil show.
I need some confirmation of some Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, or Heroes for Hire, which is Luke Cage and Iron Fist thing. And it means we've got Misty Knight again. I'm just so ready for them to fully flesh out New York as this hub of heroes and villainy all existing at the same time, and I want it. I want it now. I want it yesterday. Do you know what else I want yesterday and I want now? Ahsoka season 2. It's been confirmed. We're getting it.
They've
We knew it
teased
was
us.
coming, but it's
Well,
been
yeah.
confirmed.
And they've also teased it with like an opening storyboard shot.
Yeah.
Which is like the story continues and you've got Ahsoka and Sabine stood on the same hand that Balin was on. So it's like, and it's Dave Filoni obviously continuing the story. So very excited to see that. And on top of that, we have Mandoverse.
Yeah, and this is the thing, they actually hid the confirmation of Ahsoka season 2 because it hadn't been confirmed, even though everyone expected it would be because of the way season 1 ended. But they hid it inside an announcement that the Mandoverse film is going into production later this year.
Yep. Which is also very exciting.
Yes, it is very exciting, but it's so funny that you had that, and then you're clicking it, and then you scroll down to near the bottom, it's like, this will happen alongside Ahsoka season 2, and you're just like, that's an announcement itself. What do you mean?
Yeah, they obviously went on to announce it separately, but yeah, it was funny that it was hidden in there. But we've got Jon Favreau doing the film.
Yeah, so what I've heard has caused a bit of confusion, and I mean confusion for me.
Okay.
So when it was announced we were getting a Mandoverse film,
yeah,
that was pitched as a Dave Filoni film, and Jon Favreau wasn't mentioned. What the confusion I'm seeing is this a separate Mandoverse film that Jon Favreau's involved in, and then you've still got the other one which is just Dave Filoni, meaning there's two Mandoverse films, or is it just Jon Favreau has joined Dave Filoni on the Mandoverse film?
So My guess is this is the film that Dave Filoni was meant to direct. I would guess maybe because they're also going to start on Ahsoka season 2. Dave's directing and producing that, as far as I'm aware. He can't do that and the Mando film,
Yeah,
but the Mando film is going to be directed by Jon Favreau and produced by Dave Filoni. And I imagine, realistically, Dave Filoni is going to have a very big say in a lot of the Mando film. Probably
yeah.
sit with Jon Favreau and the writing of it and the everything. It'll kind of be done in partnership, but on credits, it's Jon Favreau. Obviously, and they have what's she called? The person that everyone hates at Star
Kathleen
Wars.
Kennedy.
Yeah, she's on there as producer. I think she's just on there because she has to have her name on there. I don't think she gets
Yeah,
to say in anything. Um, but I'm
yeah.
very
It'll
excited
be.
either way. Jon Favreau
I'm
also
curious to
loves
see where
Star
they go.
Wars, so yeah, it'll be good.
It will.
Excited to wrap it up as well.
Yes. Muse
Mm.
is reported to be the main villain of Daredevil Born Again.
Yeah, I don't know who Muse is.
Neither do I. There is a character profile coming soon. Don't you worry about that.
That's good.
It's a name I recognise. The screenshots that are being used as like when people like grab a comic panel to
Oh
show
yeah,
a
yeah.
character. It's something that feels like I kind of recognise it.
Okay.
But I don't off the top of my head know much about the character. It'll be interesting to see what my research leads me to,
Yeah.
and also um if there is any kind of indication based on Muse's comic origin, if we can get kind of any indication into what story Daredevil Born Again is likely to be telling.
True.
That partnered with the end of Echo might allow us to start building
Yeah.
a picture over
Oh
what we
yeah.
might be
Oh, yeah.
about to see. Now the biggest bit of news,
Mm.
which I'm going to let everyone enjoy for a minute before I ruin, is Fantastic Four filming has been pushed back to start in Q3 2024.
Mm-hmm.
No cast has been announced yet, but Pedro Pascal has reportedly dropped out of Zach Kreger's Weapons to clear his schedule.
Mm.
Okay, now everyone get excited that Pedro Pascal's
Still
Reed
doing it.
Richards.
Yep.
Unfortunately, as you will remember, the Mandoverse film goes into production later this year alongside Ahsoka Season 2. Both of which Pedro Pascal will undoubtedly be involved in, being that he is the Mando in Mandoverse.
Yes.
So there is just as likely a chance that he is backed out of Zach Kreger's Weapons because of that.
Yeah, I think we discussed it a little bit briefly before we started recording, but I think you made a point. They're both Disney projects.
Yeah.
So let's be realistic here. He can bounce between the two. They can schedule him between the two a lot easier than if he's on another project elsewhere. Also, we know from the last season of Mando, does more voiceover than he does on camera work because a lot of the time he's under a helmet and they don't actually need him to be there in the suit. And they've got he's quite comfortable with that. He's happy with the way that works. I think going off how we saw season 3 of Mando, he was getting more into wearing the helmet more, and his character was actually going more back to maybe I keep it on. So I think he'll bounce between the two. If he's needed for the film or whatever, he'll do a session on that. Maybe he'll go then do Fantastic Four. He's probably going to have a similar visual appearance in both.
I guess the real question is, do we get an announcement of the Fantastic Four cast before it starts filming? Or do we have to wait for the eventual set leaks to come out for us to find out who our Fantastic Four are?
I
can't be the only one who thinks it's fucking crazy that we still don't know who the Fantastic Four are.
I think we get an announcement.
We surely, right?
If we don't, do you know what's going to happen? People are going to be like, "Oh, Pedro Pascal spotted with co-stars at Disney, and people go like, "Oh, this is the Fantastic Forecast." And it's people that are showing up in Mando,
Yeah. Do
the
you know what I mean?
Mandoverse film. There's going to be like some
It's gonna
confusion
be
of,
chaos.
or people come like, "Oh my god, so and so's in the Mandoverse film," and it's like, no, they're in Fantastic Four.
Rosario Dawson is also the Thing and Sue Storm. Like, I'm so confused how we don't have maybe it's just having a bit more of a comic book knowledge than the average moviegoer.
Hmm.
The Fantastic Four are Marvel.
Yeah.
They are the first family of Marvel for a long, long time. They have been a cornerstone of Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that we've got a film coming that seems to be a bit of a mess already, which is terrifying because I'm not sure I can survive another shit Fantastic Four film. And we don't seem to have a cast locked in any meaningful way is concerning.
It is.
Because Echo's been so good, I'm ready to go, we are so back. But then I see stuff like this and I'm like, hold.
I do wonder if some of it is like offers have been made, but it's like people got satisfied with we found out who Reed Richards was, so then they're not paying attention at the moment to the same degree as
We
they
didn't
were.
actually find out who Reed is. We just think we know.
Well, true. They haven't actually fully confirmed it, have
Nothing's
they?
been confirmed.
Well,
We just know there's a Fantastic Four film coming. And we're
yeah.
not even 100% sure of that.
I mean, let's hope we get some full confirmation of a cast soon.
Yes. You know what? You need to just take me back to the simpler times in Marvel when it was like Captain America Winter Soldier. Speaking of which, Content Championship time!
Wow, what a seamless transition.
I am the GOAT for seamless transitions. I don't know what you're talking about.
I've had 97 episodes to perfect it.
Yeah. This week's Content Championship.
Yes.
Semi-final. No,
Yeah.
quarterfinal. Our last quarterfinal.
Yeah, our final quarterfinal.
No, just a quarterfinal. Is Captain America, the Winter Soldier.
Yep.
Versus Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Oh boy. As always, we have 6 categories to help us make our perfect decisions, because that's what we do. Personal relevance.
Mm-hmm.
How well has it aged?
Mm-hmm.
Rewatchability. Story, acting, and cinematography / general visuals. Would you like to get us started, Harry?
I suppose. We said it. We feel like we're saying this every week, but it doesn't get easy at this point.
No, this is deep in the bracket where
It
it's
is
just juggernauts.
It's a tough one, this, because for personal reference, it's like Star Wars is a big early day film, like set of films. Like the Star Wars universe really got me into being a nerd. And it's like both the original trilogy and the prequels, which was our generation's set of Star Wars films, that although were hated at the beginning, people are slowly coming to love more and more. So episode 1 is like the start of that. And obviously it has its impact. But then you've got Captain America Winter Soldier, which I would say we've both said many a time, one of our more favourite Marvel projects.
I don't know what you mean. I have no strong feelings about this film.
And like also one of the stronger Captain America films. So it's like, and we get Bucky Barnes. It's like, it was kind of a strong point of the MCU that probably for both of us locked in more of a love for that, where the universe was going with the films. I don't know. You say you're not strongly leaning either way here.
This is by far my favourite MCU film. It came out in 2014. I was 15 years old. This film just confirmed to me that this world is just, it's different. It's built different. This going from these big, because you got to remember, this is around the time when we got Guardians for the first time, and we're going from these like alien battles in New York to space teams, and then we still get these grounded stories of espionage and everything, and it's very anti-establishment,
Yeah.
which some could argue would speak to me. Um, I make no qualms about this being my favorite MCU film. I do
Yeah.
not necessarily think it is the best MCU film, but it is by far my favorite. I love everything about it, start to finish, top to bottom. It is absolutely great.
Mm.
Phantom Menace.
Mm.
Star Wars fans from the 80s, like Corey, hated it and
Whoa.
made young
I didn't hate it.
and made the actor who played young Anakin quit acting.
Mm.
Before then going on to abuse Hayden Christensen for years. Before our generation were old enough to really be voices in the Star Wars fandom that went, no, that film was for us and we love it.
Yeah.
I, as much as I do love the prequels and the Phantom Menace, the Phantom
Mhm.
Menace is not a good film. It is a film that you love in the sense of the way all of the MCU films are talked about by people who don't like superhero films. In
Mm.
this sense of they're like, oh, I get that you like it, but it's not good. When in actuality, we've now got to the point where nerd media a lot of the time is actually genuinely well put together art. The Phantom Menace
Yes.
is a bit of a mess,
Mm.
but it has a place in my heart. It was my introduction to lightsabers.
Jewel of
As much
Fates.
as at the time Darth Maul was just oh my god, he's fucking awesome. Who cares? Because oh my god, he was fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone who grew up around that time remembers getting their first toy lightsaber that they'd fight their friends with. And I was the awesome kid who had the Darth Maul one, which had both ends, while my friends just had a Darth Vader or Obi-Wan or an Anakin or a Luke. And I was
Mm.
there with two ends. I was the one having to fight multiple people. It was fucking awesome. These are core memories. Fucking
Yeah.
awesome film. I love that film. That lightsaber watch for so long, by the way. I couldn't believe it. Fucking awesome. How well have they aged?
Hmm. I'd say Captain America Winter Soldier has aged very well.
It has aged so gracefully. It is still out of the MCU films. It's got to be other than maybe like a Shang-Chi. It is like the best fight scenes have been in a film for the MCU.
Yeah.
It was so clean. Some of the stuff between Chris Evans and Sebastian Stan were so phenomenally well choreographed and shot and just so well done.
Well, and it's like Winter Soldier's the second Captain America, right?
Yeah.
So when you think back to then, compared to its opposition of like Iron Man 2 and the second Thor film, like compared to those ones, like it's so much better than those and aged so well.
Captain America Winter Soldier
Mm.
is what allowed the MCU to go on to be as big as it was. If that film would have flopped
Yeah.
because of when it was, they might not have been brave enough to invest the money needed to make all them other films on such a short timeline.
True. That is true.
That is definitely a cornerstone. When that film came out and it was so instantly, just everyone was like, "This is fucking awesome."
Mm.
That was when they were like, "Yeah, we've got it. Let's go, run it quick before they realize."
Star Wars Episode 1, I would say has aged well.
It's aged phenomenally well. People
Considering
have
that,
gone from saying it's the worst film ever to, "Oh my god, don't talk bad about my prequels."
yeah,
You can't age better than that.
this is true. I think it's tough because obviously we take in, it's hard not to take in all the extra like animated Clone Wars and all that that's added to that trilogy. But I do agree. I think going from like one of the most hated films to now it's beloved by fans in our generation shows how well it's aged and how it was just sitting waiting, just quietly.
It would be crazy of us not to point out that there has been a little bit of a rewriting of history where people have acted like it was kind of like always loved,
Yeah.
and it wasn't.
No.
But I think over time, especially with the internet now, and we see it happen on much shorter cycles now, people have realised it was slightly overhated, and there
Hmm.
has been an overcorrection where people claim it's a genuinely good film now. Let me be
Yeah.
clear, it is not a good film, but I love it anyway.
Yes.
Um, because of what it means to me
Yeah.
as a young Star Wars fan. Rewatchability.
I mean, with it being episode 1, it's pretty rewatchable.
I completely disagree. It is not a good enough film for me to just watch it. I'm only watching it if I'm watching all of Star Wars, or at least all of the
No,
prequels.
you're not wrong. When I think back to, like, if someone's like, oh, episode 1, I'm like, oh, is it the pod racing scene? And I'm like, yeah, cool, I'll watch the pod racing scene.
Go
Or
away
is
for
it,
40 minutes and come back
oh,
for
it's
the
the
Duel
Jewel
of
of
the
the
Fates.
Fates. Yeah. And it's like, okay, I don't, like, unless I'm, like you say, unless I'm sitting down and I'm like, I'm watching through all of Star Wars, I'm not necessarily jumping to go watch episode 1.
Yeah.
While I do enjoy the film, it's not at a point where I would dedicate just purely only watching that film.
Revenge of the Sith, I will watch by itself. Rogue One, I'll watch by itself.
Mm.
I will watch any of the original trilogy probably by themselves. I mean, I would most likely watch them with others, but if it's on, I will absolutely sit down and watch it. I'm not watching The Phantom Menace by itself. I'm only watching The Phantom Menace if I'm watching all the prequels or maybe doing an even longer binge.
Yeah.
It's just the cold hard truth. Whereas
I'll watch pod racing.
on the flip side, Winter Soldier is
Yeah.
by far my most watched comic book movie. There have been times I've gone down and my dad's had it on for 10, 15 minutes already. I'm like, restart it.
See, I'm not as
I can
obsessed
watch
about it, but
yeah. The beauty of it is, obviously, I know the universe so well that I don't ever like. It's the same with Star Wars. You never need the additional context. It just feels
No.
necessary sometimes. The Winter Soldier strikes this beautiful balance, which Marvel's never found in another film and never will be able to find in another film, where you're not likely to forget anything important if you've seen the films before it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a self-contained enough story you don't feel like you need to have watched anything else.
Yeah.
All you need to be aware of really is the Battle of New York was a thing.
Yeah.
Bucky died during World War II. That's basically
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. It was early enough in the MCU that it's not as tied into, like, this big picture of stuff happening.
Yeah.
So, like you say, you don't need much context to what's going on.
Exactly. It's a very well self-contained story for how baked into Phase 2 it is.
Yeah.
And
It's at
also
that
how
perfect
important it
time.
is in everything that happened afterwards.
Yeah, true.
Like literally the consequences of them finding Bucky reverberate all the way through to Infinity War and Endgame.
True. Which is wild.
Yes. Story.
Mm.
The return of Hydra, the
Mm-hmm.
betrayal of Bucky, the
Mm-hmm.
fall of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Mm-hmm.
This film is iconic. And as we've literally just said,
Yeah, it goes
the
on to
consequences of this self-contained story
Mm.
literally shape the rest of the MCU
Yeah.
in a severe way.
Yeah, you know what? Like, the story of Winter Soldier is a pretty pivotal point of the MCU and going forward.
In fact, that is a
And
what if episode they need to in season 3.
where
What if Steve didn't find Bucky?
just went full Winter Soldier Hydra for the rest of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, like, it's at a pivotal point, and it, like you say, the things that happened in that film had such an effect later on into the story. Whereas you got episode 1, like I've joked, like, yes, the pod racing scene has stuck with every kid. Like, we remember that. It's very cool. The Jewel of the Fates, incredible. Yes, it has these couple of moments, but the story itself is not, it's not anything amazing.
I would say The Phantom Menace purely serves to set the scene.
Hmm.
It is very much, we know where we need to get to.
Yep.
We need to explain where Anakin came from.
Mm-hmm.
We need to establish that there is someone behind everything.
Mm-hmm.
We need to establish Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes.
That's basically like what that film needs to do. Which is
Yep.
why Darth Maul is a thing. He's like, right, here is a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
He is going to be the puppet for the main bad guy, who is obviously going to end up being Palpatine.
Yep.
And how do we form Obi-Wan's relationship to Anakin? They're supposed to be brothers. Obi-Wan ends up having to be more of like a dad figure that he wasn't supposed to be.
Yep.
It's why it's the Duel of the Fates. It's been explained 1,000,001
Mm-hmm.
times. If Qui-Gon doesn't die there, Anakin doesn't fall to the dark side because Qui-Gon was the perfect person, because Qui-Gon wasn't like, he's not a Grey Jedi. I'm not saying he's a Grey Jedi. No one shoot me. But he didn't believe in completely like hiding your emotions like a lot of the Jedi he would go on to interact with did.
Yeah.
Qui-Gon was very happy breaking the rules.
Yes.
Also, if Qui-Gon didn't die, Count Dooku probably doesn't fall to the dark side.
Yeah.
Like, there's big implications.
Oh yeah. There's yeah.
So like it sets up stuff that needs to be set up, but you don't know it's being set up because you've already seen the original trilogy. Most likely, you know where we need to get to.
Yeah.
Like it's a well put together story itself. It's just not that enticing by itself.
Yes. That's a very good way of putting it.
It's very aware that it is step 1 of 6.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the midst of all that, there's a 2.5 included in that, with the animated series adding so much to it.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a very early step in the story, so it's not it like you say, it's important but not enticing.
Exactly. Acting. The acting in The Phantom Menace is not bad.
No.
What I will say is, with the caliber of actors that are in that film, I could make an argument that we could have expected more, especially if you look at the work most of them have done since.
Yeah. I could
But
agree with that.
as we've said many times, actors can only work with so much within the script.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes a film is just a bit so out there that it's really difficult to give a believable performance.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the stuff when they're like bartering to like free Anakin, it's very kind of out there, and like, how do you make that relatable? Whereas the stuff surrounding like Qui-Gon's death, that feels very real. Because you can imagine what it would be like to see someone you care about die. Like,
Yeah.
That's a lot more easier to wrap your head around. Whereas Winter Soldier, they cooked. I mean, let's just make it very simple. Samuel L. Jackson is better in A Winter Soldier than he's in Phantom Menace.
Yeah, but you can really see him in Phantom Menace.
Sebastian Stan's first outing in the MCU, very, very good. Playing with the dark sullen eyes and the really like robotic expressions.
Yeah.
Chris Evans, brilliant as ever. Scarlett Johansson, obviously amazing. She always is. Anthony Mackie's first outing in the MCU as well.
Yeah,
very
true.
good. This is actually, now the more I think about it, this is really where I started to get into a loser side of being a nerd. Because I was like, wait, that dude has wings. Surely that's someone.
Yeah.
And of course, Robert Redford.
Yes. Yeah, no, there was some great, like, for and
really
let's
solid acting performances.
There's a lot of MCU projects where we've been like, it's an MCU film, there's only so much they can do. I do think because of the story of Winter Soldier, it allowed them a bit more room to
100%
do stronger performances than you probably would expect from a Marvel film.
I do not necessarily believe the entire cast of the Winter Soldier are better actors than the entire cast of the Phantom Menace. I do believe that the Winter Soldier cast had a better opportunity to put their best foot forward.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that they don't win that category potentially. Cinematography / general visuals. This is always where I end up panning my favorite film. It's very MCU.
Yeah.
There's nothing that special apart from the fight scenes, which start like on the boat against
Yeah.
the Libor, and then obviously the fight scenes with the Winter Soldier and everything, which are stunning.
Mm.
Other than that, there's very little wow.
Yeah, it's by this point, I would say the MCU had already kind of found its vibe.
Yeah.
And we got that for several years to come. So
Yeah. And right now, we're all sitting here wishing it would go back to being that predictable and
true.
reliable.
True.
But it's nothing special. Which
Then
I
you've
think is
got
what makes it so annoying they can't even manage it anymore.
and then you've got, I mean, need we say more the Jewel of the Fates scene? Just kind of
My comment is Jewel of the Fates is cinema erotique.
yeah. Like everyone go on.
I would love to know how many people saw that film as young children and instantly decided they wanted to work in cinema and then have gone on to work in cinema. We might not be quite at the age yet where they're like directors making big films, but in the next 10 years, we're going to see that first potential generation of directors where this could have been the first real film they saw.
Mm.
And I will not be surprised if at one point they go, Jewel of the Fates.
There's gonna be like
fucker ever lets me direct anything, that's what I'm gonna say.
There's gonna be some film comes out and someone's gonna go, this gave us big Jewel of the Fates vibe, and they go, funny you should say that.
I watch that scene every night before bed. It is the best scene ever created in cinema history.
Yeah, there's a reason everyone talks about the Jewel of the Fates the most out of all of the prequel stuff. Like it stuck with people.
But
so
also just like the general visuals of Star Wars are better than the general visuals of Marvel. I do think in general the Phantom Menace is a little bit worse off than most other films, but it also entirely takes place on Tatooine, which is the most bland planet known to mankind.
Fucking sand.
Yes.
Also, I would
like
say
sand. It's coarse.
Episode 1 still was very much leaning into the practices of the original trilogy.
Yes.
And doing what they remembered how to do.
Yeah.
But starting to dabble with the more CGI and bringing those elements in, which we saw kind of hurt them a little bit in episode 2. But like, so it was in that like sweet stage as well of still had that core Star Wars vibe to it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Phantom Menace was very much shot in the way the sequels were shot. It's just by the time we got to the sequels, computer generated imagery was so much better. The CGI is much more of a touch-up tool in the sequels. Say what you want about the sequels, the visuals of the sequels blows everything else Star Wars out of the water. They're so pretty.
Yeah.
But Phantom Menace is not ugly, and it has some brilliant scenes. And the way color is used in the Duel of the Fates and the pod racing and everything is second to none.
Oh
yeah. Should we tot up our score?
I think we should.
Okay. Personal relevance, I'm assuming, is a draw.
Yeah, because Star Wars for me.
Yeah, cool. How well it's aged, I think, is Star Wars.
Yeah, I feel like we have to, right, with how it's turned around.
Rewatchability, Winter Soldier.
Yeah, Winter Soldier, I would agree.
Story, Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Acting, Winter Soldier.
I would probably have to pit it to Winter Soldier, yeah.
Which makes it 3-1. Cinematography is Phantom Menace, I will give you that.
This hurts.
Making it 3-2 to the Winter Soldier. And the Phantom Menace has exited our bracket in the quarterfinal. You tell someone from 2002 that, and they'll be like, how the fuck has it got that far anyway?
Yeah, to be fair, like, when you think about what it's potentially gone against and different films that have gone out, like, it's made a run. And for being episode 1 as well.
The Phantom Menace has taken on Amazing Spider-Man 1, followed by Moon Knight, and then was finally taken out by the Winter Soldier. The Phantom Menace did some damage to Marvel before it managed to get taken out.
Yep.
And in that, it can take some pride. And that ends our quarterfinals.
And
brings us into the last 3 weeks of the Content Championship bracket.
It's not going to be fun.
Next week is Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban
Hmm.
versus Return of the Jedi. And then in the other semi-final, we have Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Rings versus Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
I want to be easier.
It's really funny that despite the amount of Star Wars that made it deep in the bracket, we've ended up with 4 different franchises.
Yeah, no, it like there was a point where I was like, oh, half of this is Star Wars getting through. This is great.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it's all got whittled down.
Every single one of the quarterfinals had at least one Star Wars property. One of them had 2.
Yeah, it's really
So
struggled to get further.
Out of the 8 pieces of content in the quarterfinals, 5 of them were Star Wars. The only one where Star Wars won was when it was Star Wars on Star Wars violence.
Hey, it wouldn't have been fair if it was all Star Wars in the
True.
semifinals.
And it also wouldn't have been true.
I mean, they came across some hard hitters towards the end. So,
but that does wrap it up for us this week. Next week we will have another character profile.
Yes.
We will have Percy Jackson episode 6.
Yes.
We'll have the second half of Echo. We'll have more nerdy news. We'll have another content championship. We'll have some other stuff. It'll be a good laugh. See you then.
Yeah. We'll see you next week.